A few days ago, Mr. Repzion posted a video that I found particularly interesting because he describes his personal conversion to Christianity. And what I found so interesting about his particular conversion story is that he is a perfect example of people who come to Christianity, or religion in general, through a kind of religious experience. I'll show you the relevant part of the video here.
And it was at that moment where I said to myself, God, if you are real, you are going to get me out of this, and I trust you, and I give all of my cares, I give all of my guilt, I give all of my shame that I was feeling from the sexual molestation, I give all of my hate, I give all of my bitterness over to you. And it was at that moment that I felt I don't know how to describe it. I felt as if everything I was feeling was lifted off of my shoulders. I felt as if physically, as the Bible describes God taking people's sins, taking them away, and then applying it to himself on the cross, being, crucified. It was that feeling, like I was suffering from guilt and shame and depression and suicide and all these terrible things for almost 4 years. Almost 4 years. Every day waking up and thinking how worthless and how stupid I am, and how I'm not worth anything, and how I'm the one to blame for all the sexual assault that occurred to me, and all of that was gone instantly.
Now, this is not an uncommon variety of religious conversion experience. There are several religions that aim at liberation or salvation from this kind of emotional struggle. Salvation doesn't just come in the cosmic sense of a salvation from hell, like in Islam and Christianity, or a liberation from the cycle of death and rebirth in the case of Buddhism, but also a liberation or salvation from guilt and shame. And while Buddhism tells you to solve this problem by relinquishing any and all desires whatsoever, Christianity uses a method that I call the sublation of the will. This is a process whereby one dissociates one's negative emotions from one's identity. Alcoholics Anonymous tries to exploit this same kind of phenomenon when it tells its members to give their will over to a higher power. And of course there's nothing really supernatural going on here. This is a well-established psychological phenomenon, and it's not exclusive to Christianity. And the reason why I find this particular religious phenomenon interesting is because it is a phenomenon with which secular society has had a lot of trouble contending. There are, of course, effective secular means of dealing with this kind of emotional problem, but it's usually years of therapy or sometimes medication. And of course those secular methods aren't nearly as seductive as the kind of instant gratification that you can get from one of these religious experiences. A lot of the spokespeople for atheism tend to overlook this, I think, because they're generally successful, driven people who haven't been subjected to a gut-wrenching existential quandary. And they have a tendency to sort of dismiss these kinds of religious experiences and the relief that they bring people by saying that they're just an emotional crutch. And that may very well be the case, but it is a crutch that seems to work, and it seems to work just as well as the therapy or the medication that a secular psychologist might offer you. And yes, of course, there is the irony that, to a degree, religion is responsible for the very feelings of guilt and shame that people turn to religion to overcome. But that doesn't seem to be the case in the scenario that Mr. Repzion describes. So in the name of furthering rationalism and secularism, I think this is an issue that deserves far more attention and far more careful study, because I think it is an element of the psychology of religion that is not taken seriously enough.